Welcome in everybody to this week's week 4 start sit show. I'm going to get right into it. Starts of the week. This week we're going to start with quarterback Baker Mayfield. Had a rough week last week, but should bounce back this week. Playing Philly, who has been absolutely abysmal against the pass for the past 2 years, or this year and last season. Should see a good bounce back from Mike Evans. Chris Godwin should continue his good season, and Baker Mayfield should get a bounce back this week. Going into the running back, Chuba Hubbard had a great game last week. I don't think a lot of people noticed it unless you had him on your team. 21 carries, 114 yards, 5 catches, 55 yards. The Bengals have shown to be one of the worst defenses in the league this year, given 2 running backs over 100 yards. And Andy Dalton has boosted this offense for Carolina this past week from probably the worst in the league to actually looking competent on the field. Look for them to try to make the Bengals 0-4. The way the Bengals are playing right now, it would not surprise me if Andy Dalton puts up another game like he did, and the Panthers are giving them a run for their money and possibly making them 0-4 going into week 5. Wide receiver, going to look at JSN. Kind of had a fall back down to earth after his big game in week 2. But he's playing one of the worst defenses against the slot in the Detroit Lions. This game could turn into a shootout. I think it's got one of the highest over-under scores for the week this week with Vegas. The Lions have given up big games to the slot, Godwin, Kupp, and JSN is running over 70% of his routes from the slot, so let's look for him to bounce back this week. So JSN at your wide receiver. Cole Kmet, tight end. We could be looking at Cole Kmet breakout this year. He had a huge game, 11 targets this past week. His snaps have improved each week of the season, and the Rams have given up the 3rd most points to opposing tight ends this year. So look at Cole Kmet. Check your waiver wire. He may still be sitting there. And if you can buy him on the cheap still, buy him on the cheap. Tight end is a terrible position to try to figure out this year. So try to get Cole Kmet if you can. Now we're going to get into the sits. I'm going to start off at quarterback, Anthony Richardson. The whole hype built around Anthony Richardson this year was built around his running upside. And that has not shown the first few weeks. And unless it picks up, he's sitting on my bench. I have him in one league, and luckily Jaden Daniels fell far enough down that I grabbed him as well. But I'm not touching Anthony Richardson in my lineup until I see something better, because his passing hasn't been great, and the rushing upside that everybody drafted him for isn't there. So unless we see an improvement there, Anthony Richardson should be sitting on your bench. Running back, for the 2nd week in a row, I'm going to pick on J.K. Dobbins. As we saw, they faced the Steelers this past week. He fell back down to earth a little bit. Only 2.9 yards per carry and only 8.4 points. The Chiefs have given up the 3rd fewest points to running backs on the road since last season. If the Chiefs pull ahead in this, if Herbert sits or Herbert leaves this game early, expect J.K. Dobbins to have another rough game. Also, pretty banged up offensive line. They just lost their brand new offensive lineman, 1st-round pick Joe Alt, for the foreseeable future with a sprained MCL. So could be another rough go of it for J.K. Dobbins against the Chiefs this week. The wide receiver, I hyped him as a buy last week, and I'll stick by that. I really believe that Garrett Wilson is going to have a bounce back. He got a touchdown last week. 9 targets, still the target lead on the team. But just as I said for Mike Evans last week, I'm going to say for Garrett Wilson this week. He's facing Patrick Surtain, and he shut down Evans on the week. So just temper your expectations with Garrett Wilson this week. I know you're not going to sit him. Just because I put him on the sits doesn't mean I expect people to sit him. They drafted him up high. He'll be in my lineups, but you just have to temper the expectations of what he will be this week. Last but not least, the tight end position. If I could tell you to sit every tight end in the league, I would. It's just been so hard to watch this year. I think Goddard is the only one averaging over 10 points per game at the tight end position, and he's tight end 1, and that is solely based on, really, for the most part, this past week, the huge game he had. But to sit this week, I'm going to go with Mike Gesicki. Simple truth here is T. Higgins is back. Gesicki had 1 catch through the first few quarters of the last game. I think he got a couple in the fourth quarter, but look for him to struggle with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase back in that lineup. You're going to see the tight end struggle a little bit more on targets. So sit Mike Gesicki if you can find a better option this week. That's what I have for the start sits this week. So if you enjoyed the show, hit the subscribe button in the bottom corner. Check us out on all the major podcast platforms. We're on Amazon Music. We're on iTunes. We're on Spotify. So check it out. But hit the subscribe button. Leave us some comments. Let us know what you'd like to see. And we will catch you guys tomorrow.